Part 27. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 261. Chapter 261 Like Picking Up Goods. Xianxia nodded. I think there should be more than one or two people like his master in the town below, otherwise there wouldn't be such a large town here. Jiju was reborn in the royal family and was used to seeing all kinds of people. He had seen too much about people's greed, anger, obsession, and resentment, as well as various mentalities. In order to achieve his goals, he would do whatever it took, and he could use any tricks. There was no moral bottom line at all. So, when he saw the town at the foot of the mountain, he had already thought of this. Be prepared, we may have a fierce battle when we go down to the foot of the mountain, Xuanhuan said. Fight? Xianxia looked at him. That person can receive people from the lower continent to the higher continent there. Obviously the master behind him has extraordinary strength and power. No matter which road we take, we will come out from here. In this case, he wants us to miss it. The experience and opportunity in the snowfield should not make our cultivation level too high. In other words, it is still easy for them to manipulate our junior sect level cultivation strength. When we first came here, although our cultivation was at the sect level, it was not the first level sect level cultivation. Any one of their local people with first level cultivation in the mainland can beat us. However, we can come from a low level continent to a high level continent, and our talents are not generally good. They should know this very well. After training in the snowfield, we will definitely improve. Improvement, I don't know how much the ordinary people's cultivation level has improved, but with our level of cultivation, if they can't be persuaded verbally, they will definitely take action. If we don't want to be controlled by others, we must rely on our strength. Fight out. Although Xuanhuan didn't know what those people wanted them to do, one thing was certain, it would definitely not be a good thing. If it was a good thing, they wouldn't lie to them in this way. Xianxia took a deep breath and said, okay, I feel like I have endless energy all over my body. It would be great if there was a hearty battle. Xuanhuan looked at the eager people and smiled. This can be regarded as our first real joint fight. It's a pleasure to cooperate, Xianxia said cheerfully. Jiju nodded, yes, it's a pleasure to cooperate. Xianxia glanced at the road down the mountain, her almond-shaped eyes full of excitement. Let's go, and see how strong the people in the higher continent are. Xuanhuan walked down first, I go first. Xianxia didn't fight with him. The road down the mountain could only accommodate one person, and the distance between them was not far. Besides, there was no guarantee that they would immediately enter a fighting state when they went down, so they had to adapt accordingly. The two of them walked down the mountain along the steps one after another. The entire mountain should be restricted. They didn't encounter anything on the way down the mountain, but they couldn't fly in the air. Even if they could walk, it took them less than a moment. It's time to reach the bottom of the mountain. As soon as I left the steps behind me disappeared. I guess a special method is needed to enter the mountain, otherwise so many people wouldn't be waiting outside, and there would only be one person inside to receive people. The foot of the mountain is still some distance away from the town. From a distance, the town is very lively, with people coming and going, and it is very prosperous. But just after the steps on the mountain disappeared behind the two of them, figures appeared opposite them. Men, women, old and young, although they are different in age and wear different clothes, they all have the same gaze. The unabashed gazes like picking goods floated back and forth on the two of them. From their increasingly brighter gazes, the two of them could tell that the people opposite were very satisfied with them. The two of them are outstanding in terms of appearance, figure, and talent. There is almost no fault to be found, so how could they be dissatisfied? Oh, this is the first time I've seen such a young person come from a lower continent. With this appearance, this figure, and this talent, if you don't choose our Ximen family, Your talent will definitely be wasted. A man in his 30s, the woman dressed up in a voluptuous look, looked at Yuan Xiongluo and said. Before Yan Xiongluo could say anything, another man said, do you want to show some respect? Aren't the men and women from 2 months ago taken away by your Ximen family? These two have no share of yours. The woman was not angry, and still said with a smile, I only want this little girl, and you can each rely on your abilities for the other one. Yuan Xiongluo was speechless. Did she look down on them nakedly? Do they both look so easy to bully? Xuanhuan took Yan Xiongluo's hand and prepared to bypass the crowd and walk into the town. At the same time, he told Yan Xiongluo through a voice transmission, be prepared to fight, don't be reluctant to fight, leave as soon as you can, and don't stay in the town. As soon as we separate, I will go find you and you protect yourself. Yan Xiongluo noticed something in the hand he held hers. Xuanhuan put the thing in his hand and held her hand. This is the sound transmission stone, please keep it. Yan Xiongluo was surprised that Xuanhuan actually gave her such a precious thing. You have to know how luxurious it is to have a sound transmission stone in the lower continents. He has already been envied and jealous of having a recording stone. However, this was not the time to shirk. Yan Xiongluo put away the sound transmission stone with a thought. At the same time, those people also saw their movements to leave, forming a thick human wall to block them in front. You are new here. You don't know how difficult it is to survive and practice in our higher continent. The best way is to attach yourself to one of the families. Only with the protection can you survive well and practice. A thin and dry old man stared at them. Said, his eyes mainly focused on Xuanhuan. Others are also talking about the benefits of joining their family, telling them how difficult it is to be alone in the higher continent, as if their higher continent is a dragon's pond and a tiger's den. But looking at them, it does feel like they are in a dragon's den. Sorry, we have no intention of attaching ourselves to any family, Xuanhuan refused coldly. Listen to others and eat your fill. You haven't experienced the cruel training environment in the higher mainland, let alone the dangerous human heart. If you regret it in the future, it will be too late. To join our family, you only need to do some things for the family. The family will give you enough training resources and blessings, so you have the best of both worlds, so why do you have any hesitation? The woman from just now said again, looking as domineering as the strongest in our family. From what other people said, there were people who came to the higher continent 2 months ago and were brought back by this woman. The family behind her was named Ximen. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 262. Chapter 262. A Great Battle. It seems that the Ximen family has a relatively high social status here. Yan Xiongluo wrote down this surname. She really didn't like this surname. When she heard this surname, it reminded her of a historical figure in another life. It was really annoying. We prefer freedom, Yan Xiongluo said. She didn't know how her parents and master got through this when they first came here, but she was certain that her parents and master would never succumb to any family. My parents have been baptized by various methods of the Long family, and they don't have a good impression of the family. This is true for my own family, let alone other people's families. My master is an orphan and has been free since he was a child. So they will never surrender to any family for any reason. But she did not rule out the possibility that they were taken away by force due to their lack of strength. However, based on his understanding of his father, mother, and master, even if they are not strong enough, they have many methods. Not to mention his father's cunning temper, even his master's poisonous skills are not something these people can withstand. The title of Poison King is not a decoration. And she was not worried at all that she would not be able to leave this town. After all, she was also a little drug king. Xuanhuan is even less worried. Not only can he survive well at the age of 6, but he can also control the imperial power of the Tianshun Empire in his hands, and he can also play clearly with a family like the Su family among the 9 families. How could he be defeated by this group of people? We have no intention of any family, please get out of the way. As soon as Yan Xianglou finished speaking, Ji Zhong spoke, his voice as cold as ice. The words of the 2 people made the chattering people on the opposite side instantly quiet down. They looked at the 2 people to make sure that they were serious about their rejection, and looked at each other. Since they don't have to drink wine as a penalty, we don't have to be polite, the thin and dry old man said in a gloomy tone. The woman from Ximen's family laughed and said, "It's a good feeling, let's each do our best. They all look like you don't listen to advice, so I'll give you some advice and then you'll behave and don't take them seriously at all." After hearing what the 2 said, the people on the opposite side opened their distance and surrounded the 2 in a semi-surrounding state. Obviously, people from one family are all together. There are about a dozen families in front of us. Behind is a mountain that cannot be returned, and in front is surrounded by people. Yan Xianglou admires Ji Zhong's foresight in his heart. This person's brain is not very good. Just based on their experience, he can infer that there will be a fierce battle after going down the mountain. The talents of these 2 people are not very good. One is at the 3rd level of the clan, and the other is at the 4th level. Don't be merciful. Call them out quickly. A very young man who has never spoken has been, the man said. Both Yan Xianglou and Ji Zhong looked at the man. It could be seen that their cultivation level meant that the man's cultivation level was higher than theirs. However, when he opened his mouth to ask for help, he should be not much higher than them, at most 1 class. As soon as the man finished speaking, many people sent out signals. After all, there were only 2 of them, and they had so many families, so they couldn't get enough points. They had to rely on their ability to rob. If their strong men didn't show up, they couldn't rob so many people. Following the signal, figures appeared behind them one after another. Yan Xianglou just felt it and knew that the cultivation level of these later people was indeed higher than them. It looks like we can indeed have a good fight. Yan Xianglou has bright eyes. Every time she is promoted, she likes to find stronger opponents to practice and solidify her cultivation. She fights with those monsters in Wanghai Forest. This is the purpose of the battle. Nowadays, the actual human masters have better experience through experience. After all, they want to capture the 2 of them and will not show mercy. The monsters were worried that they would be beaten to death and would not be able to get the elixir, so they did not use their full strength. With a thought, the Changling spear appeared in her hand. Although her weapons also include Flying Lotus and Junzi sword, the current situation is obviously more suitable for using a Changling spear that is heavy, long, and powerful in attack. Arms. The people on the other side were surprised that her weapon was such a bulky, rather flamboyant spear. How any girl would choose such a domineering weapon? Don't they all like to choose something light and good looking? Only those who are greedy for money will like this shiny gold. This little girl is so good looking, why does she have such a special idea? Ji Zhong twitched his lips when he saw the weapon she took out. Is this weapon for girls? Knowing that she had a gentleman's sword, and looking at the people across from her, they all took out their own long swords when they saw that she had taken out a weapon. She instantly understood what she meant, but she already had the upper hand just by looking at the weapons. Cunning girl, seeing the eagerness to try again in her eyes, he felt that his worries were unnecessary. This girl is very capable and has many cards. He has not forgotten who her master is. Thinking of this, he relaxed completely, and looked at the person opposite and was eager to try. At this time, he also needed a stronger opponent to stabilize his cultivation. It is also a good time to take this opportunity to see the strength of the high-level mainlanders. With a movement of his slender hand, a long sword with cold light appeared in his hand, and he attacked first without hesitation. Since we have to fight, it is better to be proactive than passive. When Yan Xianglou saw that he had already taken action, the golden spear in her hand shook, and she rushed over with the spear raised. The golden long caltrip spear suddenly became more powerful, and the sharp light it emitted was terrifying. The two rushed over and started fighting without ceremony. They didn't expect each other to be in the same nest, but seeing their fighting prowess, they had to fight together. It was then that they realized that they had underestimated the strength of the two of them. No wonder they sternly refused to be attached to any family. They had the confidence to do so. If they had such strong leapfrog combat strength, they would not be willing to rely on any family. After all, life under control is not that good. They use the word control euphemistically. To be honest, the word slavery is more appropriate for them. After all, they are not from his own clan, and even if they are from his own clan, they are still not welcome. Even so, those who appeared later did not rush to take action, but watched the two people fight with those who came first. To be honest, although the fighting prowess of the two people surprised them, what this world lacks most is strong men and geniuses, and they did not look down on the two people from the lower continents. Therefore, I always thought that although they forced their people to take action together, they did not need to take action. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 263. Chapter 263 Great Understanding. But when they saw the Changling spear in Yan Xiangluo's hand sweeping across the field, and her strength in leapfrogging battles became stronger and stronger, instead of the weaker her strength became as she consumed more spiritual power as they imagined. They were dumbfounded by Yan Xiangluo's strength. Is this the strength that a cute teenage girl should have? How did she become more courageous as she fought? Wasn't her spiritual power exhausted? Looking at the long sword in Xuanhuan's hand, although the weapon is not as showy and domineering as the little girl's, the swordsmanship used by him is very domineering. They have all seen the world, and this sword is different from the one they use. It should be an ancient artifact. Suddenly everyone showed greedy eyes. Who wouldn't want an ancient artifact? I was thinking in my heart that after I captured Xuanhuan, I must capture his long sword. Although the ancient long sword requires a contract, can't it still be terminated? As long as it is not a soul contract, the contract can be terminated. Whoever contracts a weapon will contract with his soul. They don't know that Xuanhuan is that different kind. In order to better fit with the weapon, he uses a soul contract, which will not be separated in life or death. Wherever Xuanhuan's long sword touches, the long sword in the opponent's hand will be cut to the ground, and the person will be knocked far away. There is no way. The sword energy is too powerful. If they don't let go, their hands will be cut off. Compared with the weapon and their own hands, they naturally have to protect their own hands first. Even so, they were seriously injured by the sword energy. Fear arose in my heart. Is this person at the 4th level of the clan? How can he easily crush people like them who are at the 5th level of the clan? That's right, most of them are at the 5th level of the clan, while a few are at the 4th level. Even a girl at the 3rd level of the clan can easily crush them. So many people joined forces to attack, but no two people were able to match them. The fighting power of these two people had exceeded their imagination. Their eyes all fell on the weapons in their hands. They must be powerful weapons. The weapons in their hands were definitely not ordinary weapons. Just when they were frightened and doubtful, Xuanhuan and Yan Xiangluo had already dealt with them. However, both of them made a tacit agreement not to kill anyone. When I first came here, it was not a wise move to make enemies with these families, just to defeat them. For the sake of face, these people might not report it to their own families. If someone died, they would not be able to hide it. The family will not ignore it for the sake of face. The two of them did not rest, and at the same time they raised their fingers at the people standing in the outer circle. Needless to say, an action has been made. What they mean is that they can't do it. Come on, otherwise we will leave. Those who originally thought there was no need to take action suddenly felt insulted by Jizhong and Yan Xiangluo's actions. You are still so arrogant after you come here, then let me teach you what kind of attitude you should use to survive in the higher continent, a man opposite said in a contemptuous tone. Jizhong and Yan Xiangluo glanced at the people they knocked to the ground in unison. The meaning was very clear. At this level, what else can you boast about? You can win first and then we can talk about other things. The man who spoke was immediately irritated by their attitude. It seems that if I don't teach you a lesson, you won't know how high and thick the sky is. As he spoke, he raised the long sword in his hand and rushed towards the two of them to attack. You don't need to do anything, I can do it alone. This sentence was obviously meant for other people, and it was obvious that those people also agreed with what the man said. The man's coercion suddenly hit their faces. It was so strong that both of them felt the pressure. Although those people before had higher cultivation than them, they did not feel pressure at all. No wonder this person was so domineering. His cultivation turned out to be much higher than them, at least level 3. Yan Xiangluo and Jizhong looked at each other. It was obviously their first time to fight together, but they had a tacit understanding. Yan Xiangluo used the advantage of the Changling spear in his hand to attack from a distance, while Jizhong directly faced the man. One far and one close, the cooperation is quite tacit and smooth. Although zone-level cultivation is not the strongest here, since it is the condition for coming from a lower continent to a higher continent, it means that here it is not a cultivation level that ordinary talents can reach. The battle between the three strong men at the clan level instantly blew away the surrounding trees and rocks. In the blink of an eye, there was a large area around them, which looked more like a battlefield. I have to admit that this man is far more powerful than the two of them. Even if the two of them join forces, they are not his opponent. The two of them knew that this person's cultivation level was probably not higher than their third or fourth level as they thought. He should have reached the 9th level of the sect level, and maybe he had reached the peak of the 9th level. It is no longer possible to fight head-on, the only option is to outsmart the enemy. Yan Xiangluo winked at Jizhong, took advantage of the opportunity of fighting to give him a pill, and motioned for him to take it. Jizhong took the elixir without hesitation. The two people's actions did not avoid other people, mainly because they couldn't avoid it in full view of the public. Those arrogant people saw Yan Xiangluo giving Jizhong the elixir and thought it was to enhance his spiritual power, so they didn't care at all. Based on the strength of the two of them, no matter how many elixirs they take to enhance spiritual power, they are no match for them. Moreover, the more elixirs they take, the worse their strength becomes. It also damages the original spiritual root of cultivation. The two of them cannot get it out of their hands at all. Escape. How did they know that what Yan Xiangluo gave Jizhong was not a pill to enhance spiritual power, but a detoxification pill? Although Yan Xiangluo has many pills to enhance her spiritual power, she has never taken them herself. She knew very well that she had never even taken the elixir for promotion. She knew very well that the cultivation level accumulated with the elixir was very weak and had no future. They have already had a hard time dealing with a strong man. There are still so many people who have not taken action. If they want to leave the town, they must use some means. Both of them have a lot of trump cards, but Yan Xiangluo doesn't want to expose others, and there is nothing that can be poisoned quickly and effectively. Not only can it solve the problem, but it can also make them fearful and have a deterrent effect. And Yan Xiangluo did not want to hide her identity as an alchemist, and it was not unusual for an alchemist to know about poison. It is better for the two of them not to expose their other trump cards before they figure out the situation in the higher continent. Xuanhuan originally wanted to use Xuanhuan, but when he saw that Yan Xiangluo was about to take action, and she was the best at poison, he gave up his idea. He naturally understood that the effect of Ruan Xiangluo's poison was faster and better than his use of Xuanhuan. Much. So after taking the detoxification pill, Xuanhuan was ready to protect Yu Xiangluo and leave. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 264. Chapter 264 Identity Change. Yan Xiangluo also took an antidote pill herself, and the two continued to fight. Soon they fell behind, and they were obviously not as strong as the other. Just when those who were watching thought that the man was going to catch the two of them, the man suddenly made a move and fell down from mid-air. He fell to the ground, his body twitching non-stop, and the loachfish same. Everyone is blinded. What is going on? Why did the person suddenly fall down while hitting him, and not only that, but he also fell to the ground and started twitching? Is this what a peak sect level powerhouse should look like? Even those people who were knocked to the ground by the two men were surprised. In their eyes, this man was already a strong person. He was lying on the side in embarrassment, and you looked at me and you, not knowing the situation, dare to speak out, let alone stand up. After all, they are no match for the two of them. If they stand up, they will die. The spear in Yan Xiangluo's hand turned several times in her hand, creating a golden circle, then she punched the ground domineeringly, and said to Xuanhuan arrogantly, "This man is sick, and he seems to be sick too. Not coming, let's go." Xuanhuan suppressed the twitching corners of his mouth. This girl was also a scheming person. She was obviously the one who poisoned her, but she still said that she was ill. Not to mention her strength, as long as she stepped into the monk's door, she would not get sick easily. He looked at the twitching man on the ground and then at the group of people who were still standing motionless on the opposite side. He asked Yan Xiangluo with his eyes, "Are you sure we can leave?" Yan Xiangluo gave him a confirming look and walked over first. The other party was very confident in the poison he had administered. Xuanhuan was worried about something unexpected, so he caught up with her and walked in front of her. I kept telling myself in my heart that the little girl's master is the Poison King, and she is a little Poison King. She must believe that her poison skills are as superb as her medical skills. Those who were lying on the ground were puzzled when they saw the two men walking towards them as if they were walking. These two people are a bit short-sighted. If one strong person has problems, it does not mean that everyone will have problems. They can't even deal with one person, so they dare to deal with so many of them directly? Should they admire their courage, or ridicule their ignorance? Those people standing opposite saw the two of them running towards them, and they all made preparations to arrest them. They thought to themselves that it would be too evil to stop doing anything and arrest the people first. No matter what happened to the twitching man on the ground, they couldn't let these two people leave. But they suddenly found that they couldn't move at all. They didn't feel anything else except that they couldn't move. Therefore, I just watched the two people arrogantly passing between them, and I could clearly see the contemptuous look in the little girl's eyes. Those who don't know think they are too frightened to resist. Don't you know that their hearts are going to collapse? The strength is so much higher than yours, yet they were subdued like this. The key is that they don't even know what's wrong with them. It doesn't look like poisoning, does it? Those people who were paralyzed on the ground were stunned when they saw the two people walking past those people into the town. What was going on? Why didn't they do anything and actually let the two people leave? The thin and dry old man from before immediately shouted, "Why did you let the two of them leave? Arrest them quickly." No matter how much he shouted, the people didn't move. They finally realized something was wrong. Someone got up and came to them. He boldly reached out and touched one of them, and that person fell straight to the ground. How could this happen? I didn't use any force, The outstretched hand still kept pushing the person with its fingers, and his tone was full of horror and confusion. Others hurried over to find the members of their own family. As long as they touched them lightly, they saw them falling straight to the ground one by one. What happened to them? Those two people must have done something. Then what should we do? Everyone was talking with injuries on their bodies, but no one dared to chase them too. It's a joke, so many people who are stronger than them have been defeated by the two of them. How dare they chase the two of them if their cultivation is not as good as theirs? It was obvious that there was something fishy about those two people, and they had many tricks, but they didn't even realize what they had done. Suddenly one person thought about the fact that both of them had taken a pill, poison. They must have been poisoned. They took an antidote pill before. Hurry up and find the alchemist to see if you can detoxify. Everyone suddenly understood and quickly asked the less injured people to go back to the town to find the alchemist. At this time, Yan Xiangluo and Ji Zhizhong were already walking on the central street of the town. Obviously, their previous battle had alarmed the people in the town, but they didn't think it was anything at all. Obviously such things happen often, and they didn't think that people from lower continents could escape the hands of those people. Come on your own. To the small town. However, when they saw unfamiliar faces, they were still a little curious. Are these two juniors sent by that family for training? They are so good looking and have a high level of cultivation. At such a young age, it seems that their talents are not ordinary. Her temperament is also very extraordinary. The little girl is so indifferent that she seems to be indifferent to them all. The man was as cold as ice. The noble aura emanating from his bones made them unconsciously think that he was of extraordinary origin. Could he be a member of the royal family? The two wanted to go directly through the town and leave here. After all, this place was very dangerous for them, but when they saw a plaque, they looked at each other and walked towards the small building. Just because there are 6 words on the plaque, Identity Transformation Station. Those who need to change their identities are of course those who came from the lower continent to the higher continent. After all, they have no status and household registration in the higher continent. In other words, if they want to move around the higher continent in the future, they must have a legal identity. Yan Xiangluo had not thought about this issue before, but only after seeing this plaque did she realize the issue of identity. Ji Zhizhong knew the importance of identity. It was just because of security issues and he didn't think about identity issues. But now that there is such a special place for them to apply, they naturally can't miss it. If you miss it, it may be difficult to obtain the identity certificate. Walking into the identity transfer station, there was no one inside. The two of them looked at each other, which was not surprising. People who come here are abducted by those blocking the road down the mountain. There is no need to apply for identity change certificate. There must be very few people coming here all year round. Is there anyone there? Yan Xiangluo shouted while looking at the layout of the lobby. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 265. Chapter 265 Same Hobbies. The girl's clear voice echoed in the empty lobby, leaving Yan Xiangluo speechless. She just applied for a certificate of identity change. Is it necessary to make the lobby so big? Who is it? A chubby old man yawned and walked in from the back door of the lobby. Yan Xiangluo twitched the corners of her mouth. Old man, why don't you show your idle mood so vividly? We need to apply for a certificate of identity change, Yan Xiangluo said again. The fat old man suddenly became energetic, and his squinted eyes widened. Hey, someone actually escaped from those people again. Xianxia's eyes were lightened, and he used it again, indicating that someone had escaped from those people before, so that Xianxia was more assured of his father and mother and master. Yan Xiangluo curled her lips and rolled her eyes at the fat old man. What about escaping? We did it openly, okay. The fat old man was not annoyed, and looked at the two of them with a smile. Well, the talent is indeed good. When I first came here, I was able to break through to the third and fourth levels of the clan. I haven't seen such a talented person in many years. He's still so young, not bad, not bad. Zhizhong remained silent, but he didn't sense any malice from the old man, so he left it to Yan Xianglou to deal with the identity change. Since you think we are good, can you quickly change our identity documents for us? Yan Xianglou naturally sensed that the fat old man had no ill intentions toward them. She could also see that the old man was not a stickler for rules, and his tone was much more relaxed. What's the rush? The fat old man walked slowly and leisurely to the high and low counter-like table facing the door and sat down. Why are you not in a hurry? Don't you know that we are as tempting as two giant peaches that can make people live forever? Yan Xianglou lay on the counter and looked at the fat old man sitting inside. The old man opened the drawer and took out a box, raised his eyes and glanced at her. You are all here with me. No matter how tempting you are, no one dares to provoke you, right? Although it is used as a question, the tone is very affirmative. You have really good eyesight. You are much better than those people. Yan Xianglou bent her crescent eyes and smiled like a fat old man. The fat old man opened the box and took out everything inside. He glanced at Ruan Xianglou and said, no need to please me, I won't embarrass you. Yan Xianglou's smile suddenly became brighter. This is not to please, it is fate. Seeing how comfortable you are in old age, I just want to say a few more words to you. The fat old man was also amused by her words. You are quite interesting, little girl. Pleasing people openly and without making people feel offended is something that young children today are not capable of. Looking at their clothes, you can tell that even in a low-income continent, their status should be high, and they are not children of poor families. Especially the young man who stood aside without saying a word, with the look of disdain in his bones. He was sure that this boy should have been born into an imperial family in the lower continent, and his status was not low, otherwise he would not be like this. A natural noble temperament. What are your hobbies? Yan Xianglou's big eyes rolled, thinking to herself, if she pleased the old man, they could get some information from him. The fat old man did not raise his head when he heard this, but raised his eyebrows and looked at her. Want to bribe me, old man? What is bribery? It hurts my feelings when you keep talking like this. Isn't this also fate? I just want to give a gift to express my feelings. Since gifts naturally have to be given to those who are close to your heart, this is considered sincerity, isn't it? But I am just a person. Hey, I don't necessarily have what you have in mind. Yan Xianglou looked at the fat old man with her cheeks on the table as if she was troubled. The fat old man raised his head with interest. This shrewd girl is really becoming more and more lovable the more he looks at her. The old man only has one favorite thing, food. Girl, do you have it? Yan Xianglou's eyes lit up and she became energetic. She straightened up and snapped her fingers. What a coincidence, we both have the same hobbies. I don't have anything else here, but there is a lot of delicious food. As he was talking, he took out several food boxes from the storage ring and placed them on the counter. Here, take a look and see which one suits your taste. The old man stood up immediately. As soon as Yan Xianglou took out the food box, he smelled the aroma of the food in the food box. It was different from the food he had eaten before. It was absolutely delicious. And they are all made with Reiki ingredients. They're all here. The old man put away several food boxes with a move of his hand. Then he glanced at them and said, it's short to take someone else's hands, and it's short to eat someone else's mouth. If you want to know anything, just ask. This old man is really on the right track, Yan Xianglou thought in her heart, but she still smiled on the outside. We have just arrived, haven't we? We don't know anything about the higher continent. I would like to ask you to clarify our doubts. The fat old man chuckled, not surprised. Come in with me, This is not the place to talk. Yan Xiangluo and Ji Zhizhong looked at each other, meaning to ask him if he wanted to go in and if there was any danger. The fat old man pretended not to notice the exchange of glances between them, lowered his head and put the box back together, picked it up and walked inside. Ji Judian nodded, and the two followed the old man's footsteps, crossed the threshold of the back door, and walked inside. The old man didn't go far. There was a large garden behind him. He took the two of them to the pavilion, motioned them to sit down, and then opened the box. "I'll take out your identity documents first." Yan Xiangluo and Ji Zhizhong sat down opposite him and watched the old man take out two emerald green jade tablets and use their spiritual power to carve something on them. Name. The old man looked up at Yan Xiangluo and asked. The character means cloud with a cloud next to the character for female, the fragrance is fragrant, and the word falls is falling. Yuan Xiangluo said her name and explained it a bit. After all, many people thought her surname was Yunke Yun. The old man engraved her name on it, then touched it with his hand, and a ray of light flashed on the jade plaque. Then he handed the jade plaque to Yu Xiangluo. "This is your identity here from now on, but you don't have a place of residence if you settle there, just go to the local government office and fill in the information." "Can I not add it?" Yan Xiangluo asked after taking the jade identity tag. It was so simple that she didn't even ask about her previous place of belonging. Thinking about the arrogance of the people from the higher continents, they should not bother to know which lower continent they came from. The fat old man glanced at her and said, "Only when you have your residential address, this jade plaque will turn white, and you will be considered a high-class mainlander in the true sense." End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 266. Chapter 266. Come by the antidote. "Oh, thank you for your advice," Senior Yan Xiang thanked her clearly. The fat old man made Ji Zhizhong's identity card and handed it to him, and then asked them what they wanted to know. The two of them asked what they wanted to know one by one and chatted with the fat old man for about a quarter of an hour. Later, the fat old man felt that they had too many questions and directly threw a continental history to them. The rest is recorded here, you can read it yourself. The fat old man was thinking about the delicacies he had just put away, so he had no patience to tell them more. Yan Xiangluo and Ji Zhizhong were not polite and put away the historical records. They had also inquired about the rest, and the rest could only be experienced by themselves. "Let's say goodbye now." Yan Xiangluo and Ji Zhizhong stood up to say goodbye. The old man waved his hand and said, "Let's go, maybe we can see you again in the future." The two of them didn't pay attention to the old man's words, and left the identity change station after saying goodbye. As soon as they walked out of the door, they saw a group of people gathered outside, most of whom they knew, and they were the same people they had beaten to the ground before. Several unknown people among them have very high cultivation levels. Yan Xiangluo's powerful spiritual consciousness can sense that their cultivation levels should be at the peak of the clan level, which is the same as the cultivation levels of the people she placed there. Ji Zhizhong's lips curled up, and a very cold smile appeared on his face. "Why, you didn't fight enough, you want to do it again?" The people on the other side were silent and looked at the people they didn't recognize. The people looked at the two of them sharply. After a while, they saw that neither of them showed any fear before one of them spoke. "Since the two little friends have not made a fatal move, it means that you do not want to be enemies with the family behind us, then can you please give us the antidote, and we will buy it if you bid." Yan Xiangluo was surprised by their knowledge, but it was understandable after thinking about it. After all, so many lives were involved, and they did not dare to take risks. But once you get the antidote, it won't be certain. But the current situation is that they can and cannot leave without the antidote. Do they need to poison them again? If the people on the other side are wary, they may not be able to succeed. Zhizhong's thoughts at this time were the same as those of Ruan Xiangluo. Although he didn't know what kind of poison Ruan Xiangluo had and what would happen in the end, one thing was certain. She was so smart that she would never ask for trouble, so she wouldn't want them. Life. But sins must still be suffered and lessons must be given. She is not the one who will suffer. It would be a big mistake to judge her by the 3 years she endured humiliation in the Tianshan Empire. She is a person who knows exactly what to do when. Therefore, as soon as the man finished speaking, Zhizhong spoke, "What are you going to use to buy the antidote?" Yan Xiangluo wanted to speak, but after hearing Zhizhong's words, she swallowed the words that came to her lips. "What do you want?" the man replied politely. Since they asked what they would use to buy it, it means they don't want spiritual stones. Zhizhong raised his lips and smiled, "It depends on your sincerity." After all, we didn't bring the trouble, right? The man's eyes paused. He didn't expect that these two people looked so young, but were so thoughtful. If these two people can recover, it will really add a lot of strength to the family. It's a pity that it doesn't work for them either overtly or covertly. It can only be missed. It seems that the mainland will have 2 more magnificent figures. The man glanced at the people next to him and said, "Did you hear that? Everyone, please show your sincerity." After finishing speaking, he stretched out his hand, and a cold jade box appeared in his hand. Inside is a 10,000-year-old dragon snake fruit. "Can I buy 3 detoxifying pills?" Zhizhong glanced at him. This person was very cunning. He was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. He not only tested whether they were alchemists, but also fell in love with them. Zhizhong glanced at Yan Xiangluo and said, "Luo, what do you think?" Following Zhizhong's words, the man's eyes fell on Yan Xiangluo. Apparently he did not expect that the alchemist would be Yan Xiangluo. Yan Xiangluo was a little unnatural by Zhizhong's cry, but she understood what Zhizhong meant. She glanced at the cold jade box in the man's hand and said, "Open it and take a look." Hearing this, the man immediately opened the cold jade box, and inside lay a fat white dragon snake fruit. For Yu Xiangluo, who was familiar with all kinds of herbs, she knew the value of such a dragon snake fruit. This man paid such a high price for 3 detoxification pills. It seems that the value of the pills in the higher continent is probably higher than in the lower continent. She knew it because the highest level alchemist in the town didn't even see what kind of poison those people were poisoned. In fact, to put it bluntly, they didn't even know whether they were poisoned. Naturally, the man didn't dare to neglect to test Yu Xiangluo. He was worried that he wouldn't be able to get the antidote. Yan Xiangluo hesitated deliberately, and then said, "Although your dragon snake fruit is indeed 10,000 years old and has been preserved in a cold jade box, it has been preserved for at least 20 years, and the medicinal effect has actually been lost. It's a lot, but I don't have any intention of having anything to do with you. I'm quite pleased with what you say, so I'll just treat it as a favor." As soon as Yan Xiangluo finished speaking, the man's expression immediately relaxed. He closed the cold jade box and handed it to Yan Xiangluo. "Then I accept the girl's love. In my heart, I admire this young girl like Yan Xiangluo even more. At such a young age, not only is she a high-level alchemist, but she is also an alchemist of such a high level. Her thinking is so quick and her mood is not low. Her future achievements will definitely be high. No wonder people are unwilling to join any family." Yan Xiangluo took the cold jade box, put it away, took out 3 pills and threw them to the man, who caught them accurately. "You will wake up in about 2/4 of an hour after taking it," Yan Xiangluo said to the man. The man paused and glanced at Yan Xiangluo. He originally thought that Zhizhong was cunning enough, but he didn't expect that this girl's mind was so sensitive. This sentence seemed to be telling him, but it was actually a reminder to them not to do anything. The matter of grinding and killing the donkey. It also reminded them that they were far away in 2/4 of an hour. Because she knew very well that she would not touch the two of them until their people woke up. Thank you for reminding me. The man finished speaking, took the elixir and turned around to leave. He didn't want to do anything originally. He didn't dare to provoke people with such strength even if their cultivation level was higher than them. Otherwise, he would be the same as those lying down. After the man left, Xianxia looked at the others and said, "What do you mean?" The implication is that she wants Danyao to come up with something that satisfies her quickly, otherwise they will leave. Others knew that they had no choice at this time, and in addition to the 10,000-year-old dragon snake fruit brought out by the previous man, they were embarrassed to bring out something less valuable than the dragon snake fruit. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 267. Chapter 267. You're late. They are all thinking about what to give out in exchange. After all, they also have to consider getting something of equal value from the person who took the elixir. They will not take things out in vain. Soon, they all selected things. Since Xianxia is an alchemist who likes herbs, they all rummaged through their treasures for things of the same value as dragon tongue fruit. If they couldn't find one, they took out 2 or 3. Come. Xianxia knew that there were 12 people who had been poisoned by her, so she exchanged 9 more medicinal herbs. Although a single plant was not as valuable as the dragon tongue fruit, the 3 plants added together were already worth more than the dragon snake fruit. Seeing that she was about to leave, someone asked worriedly, "What if, how can we find you?" In case anyone understands what he didn't say, Xianxia rolled her eyes at him. "What do you think?" The man looked pale. "After all, I don't know him, so it's normal to not trust him." "You don't have to buy it." Xianxia choked him with just one sentence. Xianxia wanted to let them know that it was they who begged her to buy antidote pills, not her who begged them to come. He actually played tricks on her and asked her to stay and wait for those people to wake up. Is it possible? Is she stupid? If she doesn't leave before they wake up, will she still have to wait for them to wake up and be besieged? After saying that, Xianxia didn't look at them and signaled Xuanhuan to leave. He has a very arrogant look, and his whole body shows that if you have the ability, come and stop us. The two of them walked through the streets of the town and left the town under the gaze of everyone. They didn't choose a direction. They just jumped into the air and ran in one direction. They left first. In fact, the poison used by Xianxia does not need to be detoxified. They will return to normal in half an hour. However, it took a quarter of an hour to inquire about the news with the fat old man, and now it has been delayed for another quarter of an hour. Those people will be able to return to normal after half an hour. It takes 2/4 of an hour to move. The detoxifying pills she sold them were just nourishing pills. Those people were not without any sense at all. They immediately asked 2 people with high cultivation level to follow them, at least to know their whereabouts, in case they were deceived. Others hurried back and gave the antidote pill to those who were poisoned. Xuanhuan and Xianxia sensed that someone was following them, but ignored them. They wanted to follow them, but they also needed the ability. Xianxia took out the formation disc given to her by her sworn brother Tianjun and said to Xuanhuan, "Hold me, let's get rid of him first." No matter what the circumstances, she will not allow danger to follow her. Xuanhuan glanced at the array disc in her hand. This thing was not something that could be found in a lower continent like Tianqian continent. How could she have it? The little girl has a lot of secrets. Xuanhuan calmly stretched out his hand to hold one of Xianxia hands, and took advantage of it openly. Xianxia glanced at him. She said he was holding her hand. There was no need to hold her hand, right? But this is indeed safer, so without thinking too much, He input his spiritual power to activate the formation disc, and the two of them were teleported away by the formation disc in mid-air. The people following them were stunned. They didn't expect that someone from a low-level continent would actually have such a high-level array in their hands. You know, they don't even dare to hope for that formation. Are these two people really from a lower continent? But now is not the time to talk about this. After losing the person, they can only go back, praying in their hearts that Yan Xianglou did not lie to them and that what he sold to them is indeed the antidote. Otherwise, there is really nothing they can do. When they returned to the town, they saw that some of the people could move a little bit, and they finally felt relieved. Fortunately, the antidote was real. Among them, only the man who exchanged the dragon snake fruit and Yang Xianglou for the antidote was calmer. He never doubted that the antidote would work. The old man in the identity change station was happily eating the delicacies given to him by Yan Xianglou. The smile on his face was the most satisfying one he had ever seen. A man wearing brocade clothes and a jade crown walked in. Seeing his comfortable look, the corner of his mouth twitched. "Grandpa, did you get something delicious again?" "My grandfather's only hobby is to eat delicious food. At his level of cultivation, people don't eat these worldly things, even if they are delicious food made with spiritual rice and spiritual vegetables, but my grandfather is always on the way to find delicious food." His expression at this time showed that the food he ate was indeed delicious, otherwise he would not have such an expression. He was curious. There was only one family here that could talk about delicious food. Didn't his grandfather send him a message saying that he had eaten enough? He asked him to arrange for someone to come. He wanted to continue looking for delicious food. He didn't look like he had eaten enough. The fat old man glanced at his grandson, and immediately thought of Xuanhuan, curling his lips in disgust. Why are the children of other families his eyes drawn to? The grandson who was disliked by his grandfather was very puzzled. He himself did not make his grandfather unhappy. What does such obvious dislike mean? "Is the arranger here?" the fat old man asked while eating. "You'll be there in a moment." Xianxia sat down opposite his grandfather. As soon as he sat down, he could smell the aroma of the few remaining meals. This was definitely not something that the restaurant in town could make. Just smelling the aroma made him have a big appetite. If he hadn't known about his grandfather's temperament, he would have reached for his chopsticks and eaten it. He was curious about the delicacies his grandfather got there. "Grandpa, where did you get this delicious food?" Xianxia asked after swallowing his saliva. "No wonder Grandpa likes this taste. This delicious food really makes people want to stop." The fat old man glanced at him and said, "You came late and missed a wonderful show." Xianxia was stunned. Is there another powerful person coming from a lower continent? A few months ago, there was a person from the lower continent who taught the people of those families a harsh lesson. Could it be that another character appeared? The fat old man nodded. "Not only are there two of them, but they are also very young. Not only are they very young, but they are also very smart. Not only are they smart, they are also very arrogant. However, being arrogant is not annoying at all." Xianxia was stunned for a moment. He could make his grandfather use a series of words to describe people. It was obvious that his talent was not ordinary. It seemed that he had really missed a good show. "Where are the people?" Xianxia asked. "Gone." The fat old man was a little regretful. If he could, he would really like to keep that girl. These delicacies are among the most delicious delicacies he has ever tasted, bar none. Suddenly he looked at his grandson and his eyes lit up. If he could take that girl home, wouldn't he be able to eat delicious food at any time? But when he thought of Xuanhuan, he rolled his eyes at his grandson with disgust. Although his grandson was also an outstanding genius, he was incomparable to that kid. It was impossible for him to kidnap the person back. Xianxia, who was inexplicably disliked by his grandfather, was speechless. What happened to his grandfather today? End of this chapter. The fragrance falls ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 268. Chapter 268 Fighting for Love. Xianxia blinked. Did they cook this meal for Grandpa? The fat old man rolled his eyes at him. That girl among them brought it. Xianxia was a little stunned. For her grandfather to describe her as a girl, it showed that she was not very old. After all, she had not been called a boy by her grandfather for many years, so she must be younger than herself. It seems that Grandpa likes those two people very much, Xianxia asked tentatively. The fat old man nodded and shook his head, then sighed again and glanced at his grandson resentfully. So what if I like him? He's not from our family. Xianxia was amused by the resentful look in his grandfather's eyes. His emotional grandfather always disliked him because it was a pity that it was not from his own family, and it was a pity that he could not eat such delicacies more often. Glancing at the few delicacies left on the table that were eaten by his grandfather, Xianxia joked, "How about grandson, marry that girl home for you?" Xianxia, who originally thought his grandfather would be happy because of his words, received a look of disgust from his grandfather. "You are no good, you can't compare with that kid." Xianxia was very angry this time. He was the young master of the Chang family and the most talented among his peers in the Chang family. He must have talent, strength, looks, and family background, but to be so disliked by his grandfather, he was a little curious about how good the boy his grandfather said was. At the same time, he also understood that the people coming from the lower continent this time were a man and a woman, both younger than himself, and they seemed to be lovers. What are their names? If I have a chance to meet them, I will definitely go and meet them. See if I can win over the love of my grandpa and take the little girl that grandpa misses back to him as his granddaughter-in-law. Xianxia's words were actually a joke. The fat old man naturally knew that as the young master of the Chang family, he could not make the final decision on marriage matters. "You have no chance," the fat old man hit his grandson unceremoniously. Although his own grandson is not bad, it depends on who he is compared with. Thinking about the fat old man Jija Kong, he felt heartbroken. Such an outstanding boy did not belong to their family. Xianxia shrugged and said nonchalantly, "That's not necessarily the case." The more his grandfather said this, the more his curiosity aroused. It wasn't that he really wanted to win over love, he was just curious about Yan Xiang Luo Jija's Hong. Born into a big family like the Chang family, he knew at a very young age that he was not qualified to choose his future wife. Therefore, I never show my sincerity to any woman, so that I will not be hurt, and I will not hurt others. In fact, the most important thing is that there is no woman he sees that can make him fall in love. After seeing them too much, he felt that they were all made from the same mold. He could see their thoughts clearly without having to think about them carefully. Such a woman is really boring. The fat old man finished the last bite of the food, put away the food box and tableware, and looked at his grandson, Yan Xiangluo, Jija's Hong, their names. If you meet them in the future, you can make friends with them, and if you can't, you can make friends with them. Don't make enemies. Xianxia's expression finally became serious. My grandson is really interested in people who can gain such recognition from Grandpa. The fat old man waved his hand. Whether you are interested or not is up to you. Just remember what Grandpa said and don't make enemies with them. Just make good friends with them if you can. Xianxia is very convinced of his grandfather's vision and strength. Since he was a child, he has been inspired to become a stronger person than his grandfather. Therefore, he has never slacked off the opportunity to improve his strength. Grandpa's opinion of him has always been very high. Now, people whom Grandpa repeatedly thought he was inferior to appeared, and he specifically told himself to make friends with them. If he couldn't make friends with them, don't offend them. How could he not be curious? Grandpa, don't worry, my grandson is sensible. The fat old man also knew his grandson's character, so he stood up and said, "Just wait here for the replacement to arrive. I'm leaving." "Where are you going, Grandpa?" As soon as my father received the message from his grandfather, he asked him to rush over because the whole family knew his grandfather's temperament. He said he couldn't stay any longer and wanted to leave immediately. Before coming, his father also told him to let his grandfather go home and live for a while. Does he have the ability to change his grandfather's mind? "Of course we will continue to look for delicious food," the fat old man said with a smile. Xianxia's lips twitched. "Grandpa is not going to find the girl who gave you food, is he?" The fat old man glanced at him and walked out with his hands behind his back. As he walked, he said, "Everything and people in this world require fate. You can't force it. If you have fate, you will meet each other. If you don't, you won't meet each other." After saying this, he walked out of the identity change station. Xianxia could no longer see the figure of the fat old man and was still pondering the meaning of his grandfather's words. He heard his grandfather's voice again. "Go back and tell your father not to continue after the reception mission at the inn ends this year." Xianxia quickly responded, "Grandpa, don't worry, I will definitely tell my father." Although he didn't know why Grandpa asked the Chang family to give up competing for the next identity change station, he knew very well that Grandpa definitely came here not just for the pursuit of delicious food. Grandpa stayed here for nearly half a year, so he naturally had his own purpose. Grandpa must have discovered something. Xianxia didn't stay here long. He left as soon as the people who came here to pick up errands arrived. At this time, those people who were knocked down by Yan Xiangleo with the elixirs all returned to normal. Although they were unwilling to accept it, no one with the same cultivation level as them followed them, and the little flames who wanted revenge were helplessly cut off. They did not want to experience the experience of being unable to move or speak, which they had understood before. Until now, they don't know how they were tricked, and they are even more incredible when they heard that it was the woman who did it. A person who was born and raised in a low-level continent can actually possess such strength. What kind of evil genius is that? If such a person was born in a high-level continent, he would have become famous all over the world. How stupid are they to provoke others again? The alchemists in the town were even more shocked by Yan Xiangleo's alchemy prowess. They studied the detoxification pill and found nothing. It felt like a nutritional pill, but it could detoxify those people, so they thought it must be there are some medicinal materials that they haven't discovered. In my heart, I was envious and afraid of Yan Xiangleo's alchemy talent. If I didn't know where they were, I would have wanted to go to her to discuss alchemy. Yan Xiangleo and Ji Zhizhong were in the woods outside a city at this time. Yan Xiangleo didn't know anything about the higher continent. At that time, in order to get rid of the people who were following him, he randomly chose a direction and left with a formation disc. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 269. Chapter 269. Go to the city first. Because she didn't know the place, she used distance to locate it, but she appeared directly in the woods outside a city. From the outside, where they were at this time, the city was very large, with majestic gates and walls. It looked like a prosperous city. It was a bit far away and they couldn't see clearly the words on the city gate. The two of them did not rush into the city, but found a place in the woods to sit down and read the high continental histories given to them by the fat old man. First, have a good understanding of the higher continent. It is best to have some information about Zhizhongtian. Yan Xiangleo has not forgotten that her ultimate purpose in coming to the higher continent is to visit Zhizhongtian. Since there was only one book, the two of them read it side by side. Fortunately, Ji Zhizhong read the book as fast as she did, so neither of them had to wait for the other, they could just flip through the pages page by page. Even though both of them were very fast, the historical records of the higher continent were too thick, and it took them half an hour to finish them. After reading it, Xianxia said with emotion, "It is indeed a high-level continent. Not only is the territory large, but the distribution of power is also very complicated. This is where strength really speaks. The respect for the strong is vividly displayed here." Jiju nodded and said, "The Xianxia continent is only a few tenths of the size of the continent here. The distribution of forces is very complicated. The high continent has so many low-level continents attached to it, so it is normal for the strength to change more frequently. However, some have the big families with strong foundations still have their own way of survival. It's better for us to understand it first. Now we are not strong enough to offend those big families." Xianxia also knew very well that they had not done too much in the town before, and those families did not want to easily become enemies with them, so they were able to leave the town smoothly. If you really face off against any family, they will disappear and be able to escape unscathed. The existence of any family has a trump card, and it is not just one. "Where are you going next?" Xianxia asked. She wants to find her parents first, and Ji Zhong also has a purpose. He wants to find the inheritance of the Ji family. They both have their own purposes, and they may be separated. Although the two of them had not met often before, they had been together since leaving Tianqian continent and had not been separated yet. Thinking of being separated from him, Xianxia still felt a little disappointed. In so many years, Ji Zhong was her first companion on the road to experience. Ji Zhong glanced at her. There is a Xuanhuan family, the Ji family, in the historical records. I don't know if that is my ancestor, but this is the only clue so far. The Ji family has been extinct for more than 1,000 years. The clues left behind, there's not much left. I want to see where the Ji family once lived." Xianxia was not surprised that Ji Zhong would make such a decision. Historical records record that the Ji family lived in the interior, and the higher continent was divided into two parts, the interior and the outer continent. The interior is divided into 4 continents, the eastern continent, the western continent, the southern continent and the northern continent. Among them, the richest families in the southern continent and the most powerful families in the higher continent also live in the southern continent. The outer continent is divided into 12 continents, named after the month of December. They are Xuanhuan continent, Huaya continent, Late Spring continent, Huayu continent, Midsummer continent, Linzhong continent, Menkai continent, Nanla continent, Wuxi continent, Xindong continent, Changjiao continent, and Dusui continent. The 12 continents are distributed as if they are guarding the interior. The Ji family used to live in the inland southern continent. You can imagine how prosperous the family was when it was most prosperous. Although they don't have a map now, they heard from the fat old man that the place where they are now is the Dusui continent among the 12 outer continents, and it is also the only way for all low-level mainlanders to come to the high-level continent. But an outer continent is already as big as dozens of Tianqian continents, not to mention that the twilight continent they are in corresponds to the inland northern continent. If you want to go to the southern continent, you have to go through the Dusui continent and then through the northern continent to reach the southern continent. Not to mention that the inland continent is much larger than the outer continent. It is not easy to just cross the two continents. What's more, reaching the southern continent is not the end of the road. There is still a long way to go from where the Ji family once lived. Want to cross the continent, you need a pass. It is not easy to get the pass. Their current status is not qualified to get the pass. They must first become an official resident of the higher continent. First of all, we must obtain the status of a high-level mainland resident, Xianxia sighed. They still don't know what conditions are needed to obtain high-level continental status. No matter what conditions are needed, it is now a problem that they must solve. She wants to find her parents. Jeju needs mainland resident status to go to the inland and southern continent. Go to the city first and inquire about it. Don't be blind and see if there is any difference in the identity of the residents. Since you have to do something, you must do the best thing to avoid trouble in the future, Xuanhuan said. At this time, he was not worried about getting a resident status. What he was worried about was whether Xianxia would leave him separately. He didn't know the news about the Ji family before, but now that he has some clues, he naturally wants to go to the inland southern continent to visit. But as for Xianxia, she still needs to find her parents. Will she be willing to go to the southern continent with him? There is no reason for her parents to leave the Musui continent. It is very unlikely that she will choose to search in the Musui continent first. Twisted continent is so big that it's not easy to find someone. It takes a lot of time to walk through it. The more I think about it, the more panicky I feel. Xianxia didn't know that Xuanhuan was calculating whether she would follow him or not. She raised her head and looked at the sky. They came out in the middle of the night. They spent some time on the mountain and fought with those people before arriving in the town. It was already morning when we went up. Although we were delayed for some time at the fat old man's place, it was still breakfast time. I don't know if the city gate in front is open or not. The city gates all over the Tianqian continent are opened at all times. Xuanhuan stood up and said, "Let's go and take a look at the city first. No matter how much you think about it, you have to do it." The two of them can't come up with any results after discussing it here. They left the woods and flew towards the city gate. As they got closer and closer to the city gate, they saw many people waiting outside the city gate, all of whom were obviously going to enter the city. This is the city gate that hasn't been opened yet. The two of them landed on the ground when they were still some distance away. They walked over, mainly to see those people landing at this distance, whether you were walking in the air or riding a flying spirit beast or a chariot. Since everything is like this, there must be rules. The appearance of the two of them was so eye-catching that people on the road couldn't help but peek at them, but they didn't dare to provoke them because of their temperament. After all, the most indispensable thing in the higher continent is the children of aristocratic families, and you don't know who they are. It was Xianxia who struck up a conversation with a middle-aged man who looked more pleasant to her eyes, and the people who were with the man started chatting with them. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 270. Chapter 270 is too scary. The middle-aged man had a sharp aura, and looking at the whole group of them, Xianxia and Xuanhuan knew that they were not ordinary monks. But such a person is the right person for them to inquire about information now. "Girl, are you here for the auction in Xi'an City?" The middle-aged man's name is Xuanhuan, and you can tell at a glance that he is the leader among the group. Xianxia's big eyes suddenly flashed. Auction. No wonder so many people want to enter the city this early in the morning. For an auction that can bring so many people to attend, there must be some great treasures in the auction, which gives them an excellent excuse. "Yes, Brother Chen, are you also here to participate in the auction?" Xianxia asked with an innocent expression. Her every move, coupled with her age and flamboyant red dress, make it easy for people to think of her as a young lady from a wealthy family who came out to practice. "Almost all the people who come to Xi'an City now come to participate in the auction," Xuanhuan said with a smile. "Well, we are just here to have a look," Xianxia sighed, clearly showing that the things he wanted to auction might not be possible. Xuanhuan's expression darkened. "It is said that the auction is for 5 elements beads. There are 5 elements beads. I don't know which one appears this time. There are so many people who have received the news. I don't know if it will be auctioned. What's the sky-high price? We're probably just here to see it." After hearing Xuanhuan's words, Xianxia was stunned. She never expected that the treasure auctioned at the Xi'an City auction was actually the 5 elements pearl. Originally, she just found a reason to find out some information, but she didn't expect to find out such a shocking news. Xianxia looked at the pedestrians on the road and the people waiting to enter the city at the city gate in front of them. As expected, they all had extraordinary status and should be among the best in terms of cultivation and financial strength. Before, she thought it was because there were more prosperous and wealthy people in Xuanhuan city, but now it seems that the auction attracted these people. Xuanhuan noticed the change in Xianxia's aura, and his phoenix eyes moved. If she wanted the 5 elements pearl, then she would have to plan carefully to see how to get the 5 elements pearl. Brother Chen, we came out for training and got news, and we happened to be coming to Xuanhuan city to do some work. Why did these people come even though they knew they couldn't take the 5 elements beads? Xianxia asked, pretending to be curious. Cheng Hui glanced at Xianxia. This little girl was too naive. Did she think that all these people came here to take the 5 elements beads? No, the main purpose of these people coming was to see if there was a chance to grab the 5 elements beads. Including them, they also have the same plan. The 5 element beads have 5 attributes. The auction did not tell them which attribute the 5 elements beads were. They came here to try their luck. If the attributes were the same as their own, they would have to try to see if they could grab them. After all, with a 5 elements bead with constant spiritual power to assist in cultivation, you no longer have to worry about insufficient spiritual power. You have to know how much cultivation resources a monk consumes along the way. This is also the case for many monks who are not wealthy. The main reason for the slow improvement is that without strong financial support, there are not enough cultivation resources to support cultivation. Seeing that Xianxia looked ignorant of the world, Cheng Hui kindly reminded her, "Miss Yu, since you just want to gain experience, leave quickly after seeing it. No matter who gets the 5 elements pearl, it won't be peaceful." Xianxia naturally understood what Cheng Hui meant. There was only one 5 elements pearl, but there were countless people who wanted it. No matter who takes the 5 elements bead, no matter how powerful you are or how big your family is, there will always be people with a sense of luck who will try to get the 5 elements bead from you. There are still many people who have the mentality of competing for the fisherman's profit and want to see if they can pick up the leaks. You can imagine what a big storm there will be in Xuanhuan city after the auction ends. Thank you, Brother Chen, for reminding me. We just want to see what the 5 elements pearl looks like. We don't dare to think about anything else. When Xianxia and Xuanhuan came out of the woods, Xuanhuan used hidden mysterious patterns to cover up their cultivation. Now anyone who looks at the cultivation of the two can only tell that they are first and second level cultivators. 4. Even so, in the eyes of outsiders, it is excellent for them to have such talent for cultivation at their age. Xianxia was not in the mood to inquire about other things. At this time, she was thinking about the 5 elements pearl. She had already got 3 of them, namely wood, water, and fire. The only 2 5 elements pearls that Xuanhuan city could auction were gold and earth. Which one? But no matter which one it is impossible for her to get it. And she had a vague feeling in her heart that the 5 elements beads were all destined to her. Of the 3 she got, to be honest, she never thought she could get any of them, but she was the one who got the 5 elements beads in the end. What about this time? Why was there news about the 5 elements pearl as soon as she arrived in the higher continent? She was worried before that the 5 elements pearls were all in the Tianqian continent and that she would not be able to collect them all after she left. How does she feel now that the 5 elements pearls appear wherever she goes? It is really strange. Xuanhuan saw that she was not in the mood to inquire about anything else, and knowing that she was really interested in the 5 elements pearl, he naturally took up the topic and started chatting with Cheng Hui. Xuanhuan was very skillful in speaking. The more he chatted with Cheng Hui and the others, the more they became more and more congenial. When they reached the gate of the city, the 2 of them seemed to be good brothers. Cheng Hui and the others had the feeling that they would regret meeting Zhizhou Hong so late. A feeling of. They also agreed to have dinner together after entering the city. Zhizhou Hong said he was treating him, but Cheng Hui and others disagreed, saying that they were older than him and it was their first time to have dinner with them. Zhizhou Hong also responded generously, "Brothers will invite you at noon, and brothers will invite you in the evening." Cheng Hui and the others suddenly looked forward to seeing Zhizhou Hong even more. Yan Xiangluo felt that she really didn't understand Zhizhou Hong. He was such a cold person, with a noble birth, and had always stood high and looked down on the world. How could he be so down to earth and get along so harmoniously with Cheng Hui and the others? Such a person's social skills, the ability, resilience, and adaptability are so scary. They arrived at the city gate, and it was just time for the city gate to open. Yan Xiangluo and Zhizhou Hong thought they needed to verify their identity to enter the city, but they didn't know that they didn't even need to see their identity certificate when entering the city, and only charged a city entrance fee. However, residents living in the city do not need to pay, but they need to show their identity documents. They, outsiders, each need to pay 10 red crystal coins. The two of them didn't feel much about the 10 crystal coins. After all, they had not used crystal coins before, and they all had crystal coins, so the crystal coins were insignificant to them. End of this chapter.